This is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles from Safe Harbor Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Cory provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Financially Fit Radio with Cory Sickles.
Welcome back to another episode of Financially Fit Radio. I'm Cory Sickles with Safe Harbor Retirement Group and Wealth Advisors. If you would like any information about today's show, just feel free to give us a call at 614-760-0670, or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. And while you're visiting our website, feel free to click on that radio page. You can check out our past shows, but you can also subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, or Spotify. Also, feel free to type in Safe Harbor Retirement Group on YouTube. You can watch today's episode there and watch other Financially Fit Radio episodes on there as well. And you can subscribe also to our Financially Fit tips. We're putting out about 3 to 5 different financial tips a week as well that you can kind of hopefully learn something on. Again, we're here to help and address any questions or anything that has to do with retirement planning. And I think today's show is going to be a good one for that, because we're going to talk about some of the pitfalls that you should be trying to avoid as you kind of prep for retirement. But before we get into that topic, let me introduce to you my co-host this week and every week, and that's Tony Shore. Tony, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Cory. Great to be here on the show with you. I'm excited about the episode. There are a lot of pitfalls that can be costly and even really derail people's retirement plans because they make financial mistakes leading up to that. So I am looking forward to that, but I've had a great week. It's been a busy one. I have been so busy. I've been going down every weekend to help my mom and dad and be with my dad as he's in care now. So that's good. I had a good Father's Day, got to spend it with Dad. And then my kids came over on Sunday. I was home on Sunday. We had the whole family together, all 3 kids. So that's always fun. Once they're grown up and out and in college or living on their own, it's great to have them all back together at once. It happens less and less,
Yeah, that would be great to have them back.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we'll probably kind of talk about a little bit here, Tony, is about healthcare costs as well. That's always one of the things people should be a little bit afraid about. But, the only thing I can say here is, man, it is hot.
It is hot. It is so hot. Yesterday set a record where I'm at, but the actual temp is hot. But the humidity is killing us right here. How's the humidity there?
You know what? It hasn't been actually too bad. It's starting to pick up a little bit, but we're definitely here in summer. 4th of July is right around the corner.
Yeah.
And, we have a big, I think I'm going to go down this year to Red, White, and Boom, which is the big fireworks down there in downtown Columbus this year. I haven't been down there in a few years, but I think that'll be something that we will take part of this year.
Yeah, they have a great, that Red, White, and Boom, they have a great fireworks display. One of the biggest in the country, I've heard. And it's really
one of the biggest in the Midwest. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that should be fun. And then, it's just from a business standpoint, it seems like every month is about the same. Busy, busy, busy. So
yeah, you've been keeping really busy.
Yeah, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So, let's kind of talk about some of the pitfalls.
Okay.
And I think one of the first things that I'll kind of talk about, and that is for a lot of the individuals out there that don't have a financial plan. I think a lot of people just flat out don't plan. So there's a lack of planning, right? And, not having some type of comprehensive retirement plan, obviously that can lead to a lot of, financial insecurity. And I think one of the reasons why I think people are a little nervous to kind of go through the process is they're kind of afraid of getting bad news. And, the way I look at it is, you need to really work with a professional, because we're going to be able to show you, where you are today. But here's the most important part, is what can you do to get to where you want to, right? That's probably the biggest thing that we can do. Do you need to save more, or whatever has to happen to make sure that you have the retirement that you want? The earlier that you sit down with an advisor, the easier it's going to be, to really correct for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right, and that will help you avoid these costly mistakes. You've got to be working with a fiduciary, which is somebody who's going to look out for your best interests, help you make the best choices that are your situation.
Yeah, sure. And I think it's just something that everybody should go through. Sit down. It's going to be a couple hours of your time. It might take a
Yeah.
little bit of time to kind of prep, for the meeting the very first time. But after that, we kind of go through that entire process, just kind of show you again where you are, what's it going to look like if you keep doing the same things that you're doing. But we can do some what if scenarios too. What if you increase your savings? What's that going to look like? And there's two things I think a lot of people, one is a lot of people don't prepare. And I think the other part of it is when you sit down and you talk to a lot of individuals, do you think they want to retire early or late, Tony?
Yeah, people want to retire early.
Right. That's always one of the things they do want to do, is they want to retire as early as possible. And you need to really sit down when you kind of go through the process with us. We're going to show you what type of impact that really truly has, on your financial well-being as you kind of go through retirement.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing, by delaying a year or two, what that actually does for you 15, 20, 25 years from now, from the amount of money that you're actually going to have. And, it all boils down to how much money you want to make, obviously. How much money, have you saved? Are you going to be receiving a pension? Obviously, you're either going to get a pension or Social Security. And, again, we can sit down, lay that blueprint out for you, and just kind of show you, here's what it's going to look like for you. And it might not make sense in many cases or many times for you to retire early.
Well, yeah, that's true. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. Most people would probably want to retire early, like you say, but some might not. I love what I do, and as long as my voice holds out, I'll be doing the show with you, Cory.
Sure.
That's for sure. But at the same time, you're right. You have to look at what your personal situation is, and will it allow you to retire when you want to retire? And really, the only way to figure that out is by working with a professional, because you go through retirement every day with people. The rest of us are only going to go through this once.
That's exactly right. So, obviously, as we kind of go through the planning process and when you should retire, whether you're retiring early or you're retiring at your full retirement age or whatever age that might end up being, obviously, one of the biggest things that we have to talk about, and it's really the foundation of your income plan, and that's Social Security, right? And we kind of have to lay that down on there. And here's the one thing I'll say about Social Security is we can maximize it, give you the report, educate you on that. But the smaller amount of your overall monthly income coming in from Social Security, you're going to be in such a better situation. If you can only have 15 or 20% of your monthly income coming from Social Security, which means the rest of it's coming from your savings, you're just going to be in a whole better situation. Who knows what's going to happen with Social Security? There's all kinds of things that are spoken about, how it's going to run out of money and how it's going to do this and how it's going to do that. But, the only thing we can do right now is plan for the way it works today, right? But the nice part about working with an advisor, if things change, Social Security changes, we're going to have to be able to adjust and adapt and come up with and modify your retirement plan based upon that. And that's one of the things we're going to be able to do. And it's so difficult if you're trying to do it yourself, because we have all the tools and the knowledge to be able to do this. Just like you said earlier, we do this day in and day out. And if you're doing it yourself, you're doing it one time.
Yeah.
Right. And are you going to do it the right way? That's really the biggest question.
Yeah, that is the big question. And yeah, are you doing it in an efficient way, and are you doing it the right way? And you want to make sure that you know the money you need is going to be there each month. You don't want to be doing something that will deplete your retirement funds or your income sooner than necessary, right?
Right. Exactly right. And one of the things, obviously, is that the one of the biggest issues that I think a lot of people forget about is the day that you retire. Let's just say you want to make, it doesn't really matter, $4,000 or $5,000 a month in retirement, right?
Hmm.
That's what you need on a monthly basis.
Yep.
The one thing you need to remember, that's what you need today. The silent killer is inflation,
Ah,
right?
yes.
And I think everyone's realized that over the last 4 years,
Yes,
what
especially the
inflation
last few
truly
years.
means to what kind of impact it has on your spendability.
Yeah.
And the one thing you need to realize is, that $4,000 is going to probably have to be, $7,000 10 years from now, and you're looking around $8,000, probably 20 years from now, to have the same spending power that you have today, which means you're going to have to take more money out of your retirement accounts as you age, because Social Security, the increases we get on that is not going to be able to keep up long term with your overall budget that you're going to need for inflation.
Right. Right. Even though people say, well, I'll have Social Security and they adjust that for inflation. Well, the Social Security amount isn't the amount you're living on, first of all. And those increases usually aren't as big as actual inflation, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
exactly right.
yeah.
So one of the pitfalls you really need to avoid is assuming that you're going to be able to retire and make the same income 10 years from now that you're going to be able to need today,
Yeah.
because that is that you're just setting yourself up for failure as well. And let's face it, another big part of it, when we start talking about inflation, Tony, is how long are you going to live? Everyone's living longer. So our longevity is increasing year by year, right? So when we probably 20 years ago, or when my grandfather retired, for example, um, he probably only had to plan for 10 or 15 years in retirement,
Right.
maybe 10, right? Now we have people living into their 90s. If you're retiring at 60 or 65, you're gonna have to have plans now for anywhere from 25, 30 to 35 years, because you don't want to be in a situation in your 90s where you don't have any money,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
A lot of people are spending 30 years in retirement now, and that's becoming more and more common.
Yep. And the other side, another big thing I think a lot of people come in and sit down and talk to us about is, you might have had a bad experience with another advisor, right? You hear this all the time. Well, I worked with someone else, and um, there were just so many bad, poor investment choices, whether you
Mhm.
made those or whether your advisor made those. But again, I think times have changed. If you're a little bit of weary of working with an advisor, I think the times have changed. And the biggest reason for that, Tony, is now most work with an advisor that's a fiduciary, which means we're going to have to work in your best interest,
Yes.
right? Not our best interest on how we're going to make the most amount of income, but in your best interest. We can lose our license here at Safe Harbor if we don't do the fiduciary way, right? So we're certified financial fiduciaries. We went through certification to become what they call CFF, certified financial fiduciaries, and I think it's a good thing, because we're always going to be working in your best interest. And you know, are some investments going to be bad? Odds are the answer is yes.
Sure. I mean, there
However,
are down years like
right.
2022. Yeah.
Exactly right. I mean, we're going to have down years within that, but you have to look over the long term of what we're going to be able to provide you. And I think if we're recommending things in your best interest, I think you're just going to be in a better situation, long term. I'm not going to sit here and guarantee what type of rate of returns that you're going to get. Everyone's situation is different. Are you risky? Are you very conservative? But that's probably the biggest part, is when you kind of come in and we go through and sit down with you and go over your risk analysis. We're going to be able to sit there and say, okay, this is where your risk level is. You're a balanced investor. So we're going to make sure that your overall portfolio is balanced. And as you age, you will eventually become more conservative, which is why we actually do the risk analysis every year to make sure, do we need to reallocate? It's not going to be like, you're 60 and you're balanced, and then when you're 70, all of a sudden you turned out to be an aggressive. You're not going to be aggressive at that point in time, because now you want to preserve it.
Sure.
And it's so important to make sure that as you age and as you go through retirement, your portfolio matches what your true risk level is, which is why you need to adjust that at least on an annual basis.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important to note. And you do need to make adjustments as you go. And as you mentioned earlier, everybody's got a different time horizon that you have to take into account. And a lot of people don't do that and don't know how to do that in the right way. And that's another reason to work with somebody who does retirement income planning on a daily basis, like your team.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what we're going to be able to be here to do is put these type of plans for you.
Yeah.
And one thing you can't talk about, you always have to talk about when we talk about retirement and budgets and what's your net income, Tony, and that is, what are you paying in taxes?
Taxes always come into play.
Taxes always come into play.
Yeah,
Everyone,
and they're going to affect it.
That's right. So not only does your portfolio need to be diverse on how you're invested, but you need to make sure that you're diverse from a tax standpoint as well. Everyone always think, you hear this all the time. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Right.
And so many clients or prospects come in and go, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket from an investment standpoint. Well, all your eggs are in one basket when it comes to your tax liability because they're all in IRAs.
Yeah.
I see that so much. 90% of someone's money is in an IRA. And all that means to you is that you're going to pay taxes to Uncle Sam or the IRS as long as you live.
Yeah. So what you're saying is traditional IRAs and 401ks, that's the most common thing people have now when they retire, and those are tax deferred accounts. So in retirement, all the money they take out of them will be taxed, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. And, so it doesn't matter, whether it's a 401k, Tony, or a thrift savings plan or a 403b. At the end of the day, or even if you have your own IRA, all that means is, yes, you got some type of tax benefit today, but as that grows and accumulates, and then when you retire, another most common mistake is, well, when I retire, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket.
Yeah.
And that ain't going to happen either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of my clients are in the same tax bracket when they retire. So that's kind of a, everyone's situation is different, but most likely you're going to be pretty close to the same tax bracket that you're in today, which means now you're going to pay taxes on that for as long as you live. Are taxes going to go down? No. So if anything, taxes are going to go up, which means you could be paying more. So by working with an advisor, we can look at your current situation and say, can we maybe change things? Instead of putting money into your 401k at work, see if they have a Roth 401k. Pay your taxes now. Let this grow tax deferred, but more importantly, tax free. So for our listeners out there, you want to make sure that you have traditional, what we're going to say is traditional IRAs. You want to make sure you have Roth, and you're going to want to make sure you just have strictly what we call brokerage accounts. Each of those are taxed differently, but you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket when we start talking about being tax efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a common mistake. As you said, a lot of people, when they first come to you, before they've worked with you, they come to you and all their money is at risk in the market. And they say, oh, yeah, we're conservatively invested, or all our eggs aren't in one basket. And it's all in an IRA. And yeah, it's all at risk, and they don't have any money in safe money options, and maybe they've doubled up on a lot of stocks because they have a couple of different accounts. And and so you really need to look at that. And I know you run a report for people that can really analyze that, and you look at it and say, okay, here's where you're at, but this would make a lot more sense and help you have a longer, more secure retirement. And that's the value right there.
Yeah, I think it is. I think anytime you can give somebody something that they can put their hands on, read it, become educated,
Yeah.
and be able to see this is what it's going to look like if I don't change anything.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's always good to be able to just to be able to have that information, because just like anything else, the more information you have, whether it's about Social Security or about income planning or about taxes or about estate planning, any of that information that you have, you're going to become more educated. But now, more importantly, now you can make an educated decision,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I think that's one of the most important things to be able to do, especially as you plan or as you are in retirement. And another common thing is when you do retire, everyone goes on to some type of fixed budget, right?
Right.
So it's very important. It's important now too, even before you retire, but it's very important even when you are retired that you have some types of emergency fund savings. You're going to have unexpected costs that come up in retirement, just like you do today, while you're working.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you might have to replace your roof if you're living in a house, or your
Yeah.
appliances, or you have to upgrade your bathroom, all this type of stuff. And you need to be able to make sure that you have a savings that's going to be able to take that from. You don't want to keep coming in and say, hey, you're on a budget to take $50,000 a year out of your portfolio, for example. And all of a sudden you go, hey, I need another 25 grand this year because I got to pay for these other things. Well, you need to be able to save for that. That should be part of your budget, is being able to have a portion of that go into your emergency fund. So you don't have to keep coming back every time you have some type of unexpected expense. That's probably one of the biggest things that I see mistakes on, Tony, is we put together an income plan, and the next thing I know is you keep coming back in for 10,000 here, 5,000 there, 20,000 there. All of a sudden that adds up, and that has a huge impact on your overall retirement plan, especially the longer that you live.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. A lot of people don't have enough in an emergency fund or properly plan for that. And if you say, okay, in 5 years, we're planning on still being in the house will probably need a new roof. Cory, where can we pull that money from? And where should that money be set right now to make the most sense to not derail our retirement? And there are a number of ways. It's not necessarily just, oh, that has to be sitting in a savings account. Maybe it comes from another type of an account, or you put it here, or you're getting money from this place. But yeah, you don't want to go to your investments that are in the market and pull 20,000 out here and 5 grand out there. You're going to deplete that very quickly, especially if you happen to need it in a down year, right?
That's exactly right. Anytime you have market volatility, Tony, then then that's a whole different discussion, right?
Right. Exactly.
Because what are you really going to do? And the last thing I just kind of want to remind everyone with is, really the best thing to do is be able to prepare. And obviously, I think everyone out there should become educated on what your options are for future healthcare costs. Just come in and talk to us. We're going to be able to explain to you what options you have. You might
Right.
choose not to be able to go down one of those options. Maybe it's too expensive for you or whatever that type of is, but just become educated on that. More people are going to need healthcare.
Mhm.
And what I'm really talking about, whether it's assisted living or maybe you have a nurse come in and take care of you. There's products out there today that can help you with that burden when the time does come. So when I say nursing care or nursing home, that's kind of like an old term. There's different methods or different, where you are in your healthcare needs on where that is. And there's policies out there that can actually help you pay for those costs as you progress. Eventually, maybe you do go into a nursing home.
Yeah, there's independent living, senior care, then there's assisted living,
Yeah,
then there's full-time care, memory care, and it can progress, and the cost can progress,
exactly right.
and Medicare doesn't cover that. So you've got to have a plan in place, and you do have different methods to do that. So
That's exactly right.
I think that's great, Cory, but we're almost out of time for today's show. It went by fast. Why don't you let our listeners know before we go how they can get a hold of you and get a plan in place or get a second opinion?
Yeah, for our listeners out there, just give us a call at 614-760-0670. or you can always visit us online at safeharboroh.com. Again, when you do come in and you sit down and meet with us, every meeting is complimentary. There's no financial obligation. We're here to help to make sure that you avoid a lot of the pitfalls that we talked about today, because we want everyone to have a secure retirement. And the best way to be able to do that is to plan. Have a financial plan and put in place, and we're here to help you make sure that that happens.
All right. Thanks, Cory. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Financially Fit Radio. Thank you for listening to Financially Fit Radio. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, contact Cory Sickles at Safe Harbor Retirement Group. Call 614-760-0670 or visit their website at financiallyfitoh.com.
All matters discussed during the show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary, and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration, the Federal Medicare Program, or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.